Welcome to Lessons in Life and Love with Riana Milne, where we show you how to have the positive mindset for success in all life areas. It's time to have the life you desire and the love you deserve.
Okay, we are live with one of my favorite all-time mentors, John Assaraf. John, welcome to Lessons in Life and Love podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be with you.
It's great to be with you. We were chatting a little bit before taping, and I said, I watched you in The Secret, and this overwhelming feeling came to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet this man one day. I was so inspired by your story. And I immediately went out and bought The Answer, which is totally highlighted in yellow. It's one of my favorite books out of 400 on my shelf.
Thank you.
And once I read this, I was actually working with kids of trauma in an elementary school, grades K through 6. And I went in and I showed them your portion of The Secret. And these were kids from underprivileged areas and a lot of kids giving up on life in a lot of ways. And when they saw your story and I could give them some of the answers of how this works in science, they were all doing it. My whole elementary school was doing this.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Really inspiring those kids and me and my daughter, Alexi Panos, who you have met and done films with. It's just such an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much. So let's get started for my listeners. I know they're very excited to hear your story. Again, I was honored to meet you first at Just Like My Child charity event through one of my mentors and coaches, Lisa Sachovich. And then again, through Mark Lack, my marketing coach, who's amazing. So here we are again. You've had so much success over many years. What led you on that journey? And what are some of the favorite projects that you've done that led you eventually to NeuroGym?
It's so easy, to stand on top of the mountain and say, look, I'm on top of the mountain. And I've had a lot of successes. But what most people don't like to talk about, or when people look at people that are successful, don't think about, is what were all the failures that caused us to keep going? What were the turns, the twists, the falls, the pains, the traumas, which every successful person has? And the first thing I like to talk about is, sure, I've achieved some successes in my life, but I've also been mega unhealthy, where I had severe ulcerative colitis and I was taking 25 pills a day, 2 betamethasone enemas, one in the morning, one at night, which is cortisone, sigmoidoscopies, once a month, going to the hospital because the doctors thought I was going to get cancer and have part of my colon removed. I was divorced twice, but finally, figured that I was at the scene of both of those crimes and changed my own inner game to be a different person and to be in a relationship in a different way. Yes, I've succeeded in businesses, but I've also had several major failures in businesses. I've done well in the stock market. I've lost a fortune in the stock market. So a lot of people see the success now. I was 238 pounds with 33% body fat just 12 years ago when I decided to get my shit together and lose weight and keep it off for the last 12 years. So the stuff that people see when you're at the top of the game doesn't really tell you about the game.
That's so true. The journey.
So let's start with some of that. And you and I earlier talked about what allows us to be traumatized, what allows us to fail miserably, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, in relationships, and come back. Right. And the answer is mindset is what separates those who do from those who do not.
The resiliency factor.
Resiliency factor is one of those things, right? Mm-hmm. And it's also a commitment to never staying down, never allowing the result that you don't want, whatever has happened to you, whatever the circumstances are, there's a way to overcome it or them or that. And the key, and I like to call it the razor's edge, is not intelligence. It's not about how smart you are. It's about where you pay attention and what you focus on that determines how you feel, and how you feel will determine whether you take inspired action or you don't. So do you want to be a victim or do you want to be victorious? Do you want to be consumed by how you can because you must, or do you want to be consumed by why you can't because of whatever stories, reasons, or excuses you have. You can have stories and excuses, and you can have success. You just can't have them at the same time.
Right. I mean, with all my research, it's 9 out of 10 people experience childhood trauma. And I named the top traumas through my work of 21 years as a psychotherapist turned coach. And we know that the habits, behaviors, and beliefs of people originate with the childhood or love traumas that we might have experienced as young. But we also know, you and I, that this can be changed. The brain can be rewired for improvements in mindset and emotional control, as well as incredible happiness levels. So what techniques, John, do you use within NeuroGym to help heal and transform the fears, negativity within people that you work with?
I like to break things down into what are the 4 things that usually will hold somebody back? What are the 4 things? And so number 1 is, let's say somebody doesn't have the knowledge or the skill to achieve a goal that they want, whether it's a goal to overcome a trauma, whether it's a goal to make more money, whether it's a goal to become a coach or start your, whatever the goal is. If you don't have the knowledge or the skill, then we know, and I always have my little brain in front of me, we know that the emotional center of our brain, the amygdala, is going to fire off a neurochemical, whether it's cortisol or epinephrine or norepinephrine, that's going to cause us to feel unsafe. So if we are lacking the knowledge or the skills, we feel unsafe, which causes us to feel doubtful. And when we feel doubt, we actually lose motivation. Actually, blood flows away from the thinking part of our brain, which is what I call the Einstein part of my brain. And we activate the fear center, which I call the Frankenstein part of our brain. And then we just say, you know what, I'm just going to stay in my comfort zone and my trauma or my current results in comfort zone. And so lacking knowledge or skill actually does cause procrastination in a lot of people. It does cause the fear center, stress center, anxiety center to activate. And then we don't take action. Mm-hmm. That's 1 of 4. And we can have a combination of all 4 or just 1. The second one is limiting beliefs. So if you have a goal that you want to achieve, and again, it's a goal of something you want to move away from, a trauma, a circumstance, if you have a limiting belief like, I'm too old to do this, or I'm too young, or because I'm Black, I can't, or because I'm Asian or Caucasian, it doesn't matter. Limiting beliefs are the lens by which we see the world and us in the world. And so we are deleting and distorting possible solutions based on limiting beliefs. Beliefs are the software by which our brain deletes or distorts information or accepts and resonates with it. So if we have any limiting beliefs, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them, then we're not going to take inspired action because the limiting beliefs are going to hold us back. Mm-hmm. Number 3, let's say that there is a self-image that we have developed over, whether it's a year or a lifetime. We have a hidden self-image. There's a self-image that we have, which I call our explicit self-image, where we say, well, I deserve this, I'm worthy enough, I'm good enough, and we can declare it. But if we have an implicit belief or self-image where I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve this. If there's in the deeper recesses of our memory bank, there are reasons why we feel we're not worthy or good enough, then we are not going to take inspired action to achieve something that we want because we don't see it as our reality. So we actually have to recalibrate our old self-image and replace it with a new self-image that will accept what we want.
All those messages from our childhood, which I describe as trauma number 2, the verbal messages we might have heard. You're not good enough, you're too fat, this or that, or trauma number 7, which is personal trauma, where you might have been bullied or not accepted at school, or the overweight child or the skinny child called the nerd. And when I worked with kids in school, John, it was so true. They came from this mindset, subconscious lack so much. And they came to Miss Rihanna's relaxation room where I'd have them meditate, and we did music therapy and behavioral charts. And these kids learned to believe in themselves again. And like I said, your character ed class day around John's messages, where you grew up as a struggling teenager and quit school, really resonated with them. And I said, and look what this man achieved by just making those subconscious messages not important. And I found in the school, so many kids were diagnosed ADHD when really they were coming from traumatic homes. Their cortisol was way up. And when that's up, memory is down. So they had trouble learning. And as soon as they went through the meditation process, their grades went up. They became friendlier. They were calmer. The focus was there. It was just amazing when we could change their brain, how it changed their life. And then when they said, whoa, I can excel, I can learn this, and not come to school with all that high trauma ruling their lives. So amazing, changing those subconscious behaviors to conscious patterns.
And they're protective mechanisms, right? And that leads to the fourth one, that's fear. Fear of failing, fear of being embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged. So we create these protective mechanisms to protect ourselves, to stay in a safety and comfort zone, even though we may not like the results. And so when any one of those things are in play, or any combination of those things are in play, we don't perform at the level that we're capable of achieving. We perform at the level that we are safe. And that really brings up, okay, so even being miserable is safe? Yes. Even not achieving my goals is safe? Yes. Even not fulfilling my potential safe? Yes. Because we are wired for safety first before we do the things that are required to get to that next level of success. And so for me, I felt I wasn't smart enough or good enough because I didn't know the English language when I moved from Israel to Montreal. And I fell 2 years behind in school. So I was failing tests. And the evidence was that I wasn't smart enough or good enough because there were other kids that were doing better. And then they were making fun of me because I was the dumb jock as I got a little bit older, and voted most likely to fail in life. So I had enough
evidence. You showed them. That's a watch me attitude.
I showed me, but what happened for me is I was very, very lucky. Number one, that I didn't die or go to jail with the trouble that I was getting into, but I had a mentor. I had somebody who didn't need my money, somebody who didn't need to convince me of anything. It was a man by the name of Alan Brown that just came into my life because my brother introduced me to him, and he just cared. He cared about a young, boy at the time. I was 19, a young man. And he shared with me, the power is all there in your brain. I was like, what are you talking about? Look at my results. They're horrific. I got $40 in the bank. I've got a job. I'm making $1.65 an hour, the factory, in a shipping department of the factory. And, I'm not that smart. The evidence is real. And he changed my perspective on possibly thinking a little bit differently. And I know that's what you do. And that's why I wanted to be on your show, is if somebody could just open up the window of maybe there's a better way for me to use the most powerful biocomputer in the whole universe. We can't make one of these for $1 billion, and everybody owns one. So maybe it's a matter of learning some new techniques to use it better. And in using it better, we achieve different results. If people are open to that, then there's hope. Without that, there's more of the same.
So if they don't invest the time, the energy, whatever it takes to learn these skills, what happens? They just stay stuck in the negativity the rest of their lives?
It's not just that they get stuck. By the very nature of how our brain works is any pattern that we repeat, whether it's a thought pattern, an emotional pattern, a behavioral pattern, the results that we achieve, any pattern that we reinforces itself, right? So things don't get, from bad to worse. They get from bad to worse to worse to worse to worse, because as we get older, the requirements, the needs that we have change. And so when we're younger and we have the energy, the vim, the vigor to change, to do what we want, that's the time to do it. Once you get into your 70s, 80s, 90s, it's harder to change because those neural networks are like highway systems, on in a city. So we can actually change a lot faster and easier today than even a year ago, because we've discovered two things that are really paramount. One is neurogenesis, and that is that our brain is developing new brain cells even as we age. And the other is neuroplasticity, which means that those brain cells can create new connections. Now, why is that important? It's important because we used to believe that we were hardwired. And that's where the old saying, you're just like your father, you're just like your mother, you're so like your grandmother. That's where those sayings come from, is because we have these propensities to repeat the behaviors that we saw, because we developed these neural networks and patterns that got reinforced, and we behave in those ways. But what we now know is using the science of neuroplasticity by upgrading our knowledge and skills and our awareness, and by creating new beliefs, creating a new self-image, learning how to manage the emotion that we call is fear, learning how to manage vulnerability, learning how to manage fear of failure, learning how to manage being embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged. Those are automatically triggered in our subconscious mind, but we're not our emotions or our thoughts or our feelings. We have those, but in the absence of skill, they control us.
Right.
What if we could learn? There's nothing wrong with my emotions. There are some that empower me, some that disempower me, some that are constructive that I want to build, others that are destructive that I want to eliminate. Some are positive, some are negative, and I want to train my brain to be as positive as possible, to have constructive emotions, to have constructive beliefs, to have a mindset that allows me to achieve my goals versus to be held hostage in my past. These are all skills that we can learn, and our brain is willing to learn. We just have to know how to activate this neuroplasticity switch and to let go of what I think both of our mutual friends, Daniel Amen, said, let go of the ends, the automatic negative thoughts, and create the acts, the automatic positive thoughts. We could do the same thing with behavior and emotions.
Yes. Now, as a clinical trauma professional, I've learned it takes about 6 months to retrain the brain and maybe rewrite some of the stories from the pain of the past. Some of it is spiritual forgiveness, taking the conscious and making that stronger than the subconscious or unconscious brain. In your opinion, how long does it take for someone to change these major patterns they might have grown up with?
According to some of the research at the University of London, between 66 days and 365 days. So if you think about, when we have a trauma, all right, we know that something that is emotionally painful wires our brain tens of thousands of times faster than something that is emotionally pleasurable.
Yeah.
So when we have an emotion that's, a trauma, whether it's a mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial trauma, our brain, because it's wired for safety and survival above all else, for the survival of the species and for moving away from behaviors, wires these painful events in our lives faster so that the memory of that pain to move away from it is high priority. Mm-hmm. So using a variety of different techniques, whether it's meditation, mindfulness, visualization, mental contrasting, subliminals, affirmations, whether you use one or all of them, you can actually repattern a new neural network. Usually within a month to 2 months, you could see some really great results. But if you do it for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, you're reinforcing that pattern. Like if you think about building a highway system in a city, a brand new city, it's all flat land. Well, you grade, the soil, you create the pavement, you create everything that you need to be able to drive on these highways. And then you can create these networked, smaller highways and roads into it. That's how your brain works. So we can deactivate a neural network, a pattern that has been there for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And when you deactivate that from dominating your life and thinking and feeling, and you create a new pattern, and you are patient as if you're building a new road. I call them neuroads, right? New
Yes.
road, neuroads. And if you just say, listen, over the next 90 days to 180 days to 1 year, I'm going to reinforce the patterns that I want. And just be patient with yourself, like a farmer, who plants seeds in the soil.
Exactly. I know a lot of people want it that fast. And I said, it's a process, it's a journey, it is a retraining, and enjoy the journey as you do it. And as I'm working with my clients 4 to 6 months, it's amazing within that third month into the fourth month, everything starts changing.
Right.
They don't have those negative fear-based thoughts. They get a job promotion. They're doing better with their children and their friends. And it's just everything in their life is impacted in such a positive way. Yeah. It's just a beautiful transformation to see.
And that's because you're helping them change from the inside out. So
yeah, you talk about Innercise in NeuroGym. Can you explain to people what that is and how do they do that and how do they get started?
Sure. In the 70s, you probably remember Jack LaLanne made exercise popular, even though, doctors said, don't exercise, it shortens your lifespan. He says, no, you can build muscle, you can increase flexibility, you can increase your cardiovascular capacity through whether it's walking or jumping jacks. You remember jumping jacks? Well, I realized that from the time I was 19 years old, I had my goals written out on a piece of paper because that's what people did back then who were in personal development. Write them down, have written goals. And there's a great book back then called Think and Grow Rich that a lot
that's
of
phenomenal.
People read way back, in the 60s and 70s, based on Napoleon Hill going and interviewing, a variety of billionaires for Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in the world. And they discovered that the secret in that book was you become what you think about most. And back then I used to joke that at 19, I used to think I was going to become a woman because that's what I thought about most back then. But that was the joke of the day. In addition to having my goals, my first mentor asked me to write down, what would I need to believe about myself to make those goals possible? And so I remember I wrote down, I need to believe that I'm smart enough. I need to believe that I am worthy. I need to believe that I am good enough. I need to believe that I'm capable of. I need to believe that I can learn whatever is needed. I need to believe that I can develop the habits required to achieve those goals. I wrote down a bunch of these beliefs that I didn't believe at the time I wrote about them. It was just, what would I have to believe in order to make those goals a reality? So I wrote down what I'd have to believe. And then every day I would read those beliefs. I would record those beliefs onto my cassette tapes 40 years ago. And I would listen to those. Why? Because when I was 13 years old, my rabbi shared with me that I should read the passage for my bar mitzvah onto my cassette recorder. And by listening to it over and over and over again, I would memorize it faster. And you know what? It worked.
It worked.
So I did the exact same thing 6 years later. I recorded these affirmations and I started to listen while I was driving to work, while I was driving home, while I was going out. I would just listen to this cassette with affirmations and I recorded my goals. And within, 2, 3, 4 months, I started to feel more self-confident. I started to act in ways that were consistent with achieving those goals. I would show up to work early where I used to be lazy. I would stay a little bit later. And all of a sudden, I started to change and I started to achieve more success. I started to make more money. I started to do things that I didn't do before.
It's amazing, isn't it, how this works?
So for the last 40 years, I've looked at different methods, different technologies, different experts teaching me about the brain. And I've used that for my own performance, to teach it to my employees, to teach it to students. And I've got, hundreds of thousands of students around the world, millions that have seen my stuff. And Innercises are mental and emotional techniques to strengthen your core neuromuscles. So if you think about focus, could you have really, really strengthened focus muscles or very weak ones? Well, of course. Could you have expanded awareness versus limited? Of course.
Yeah.
Could you have empowering beliefs versus disempowering ones? Of course. So for the last 40 years, not only have I been figuring out what are the best ways to strengthen my core neuromuscles. So instead of my physical muscles, core neuromuscles, I came up with Innercise. I wrote a new best-selling book on it called Innercise. And then I started to bring a lot of the experts that I'm learning from that are doing the research to an event that we do, every single year. And so we could teach this to other people so that they can use their most powerful brain better.
And I want to encourage all the parents out there. I didn't mean for my daughters to be science experiments, but I was studying the masters, I call them, the Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, The Secret, just studying this. And my girls were listening to cassette tapes as we were driving. And I remember Lexi saying, I like these tapes. So by the time she's 15, she's like, I want to be a pop singer. And she sings on 3 multi-platinum CDs. At 20, she goes, I'm going to go to Africa and put water wells in to help people who need water. And me being the mom's like, okay, well, this is a little scary. I got to let her go. She has to believe in her dreams. But to the parents, this works. Please empower your kids with this information. Don't wait. Do it as early as you possibly can. I can tell you it absolutely works between my daughters and the students from K through college that I've worked with over the years, teaching a lot of John's methods and other methods from the masters. This works. And the exciting thing is you get to learn a whole lot more about it this Saturday. November 14th is Brain-a-thon 2020. So John, would you like to go into that a little bit?
Sure. So a lot of people ask me, who are the people that I study with? Who are the people that I'm collaborating with from whether it's Harvard or Oxford or Pepperdine? And so not only did I introduce the people that follow my work to those people, I do this thing called a Brain-a-thon every year, where I invite some of the top brain experts who are really good at not just the science, but really good at explaining, here's what we've discovered about habits and how to let go of disempowering ones and start new powerful ones. Here's what we've learned about taking a self-image that maybe you feel like you're not good enough or smart enough or worthy enough, and here's how to change it. Here's what you do if you have limiting beliefs, like you're too young or too old, or you don't have this, you don't have that, and that's preventing you from success, and letting go of them. So I've brought together a new group for this year. I've got Dr. Sarah Mackay, Oxford-trained neuroscientist, Dr. Joan Rosenberg, professor of the graduate program of psychology at Pepperdine. I've got Dr. Maria Nemeth talking about how to earn, how to achieve financial success at any age. She's in her 70s, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let me see, I've got Dr. Dennis Waitley, the godfather of personal development, talking about the new psychology of winning. He was the one that worked with Neil Armstrong in training his brain to go to the moon and put the first step on the moon. He'll be on this year's Brain-a-thon. And then I brought on a dear friend, Nirka, who not a lot of people know, but she's like my secret weapon. She is a master neurolinguistic programming expert, really understanding the meta programs that we have. And she'll be talking about how to let go of limiting beliefs, self-image issues, and fears that hold people back. And I'll be doing a session this time on flipping on your brain's success switch. And so we've learned a lot about the networks and circuits of our brains and how to turn them on, the ones we want, and how to turn off the ones we don't want. And it's an all-day event. It's free. We'll be teaching, and we've got lots of just amazing fun going on, some prizes, a lot of learning, a lot of collaboration, a lot of interaction. And it's this Saturday from 9 a.m. Pacific to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You can come for 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours. And we've had as many as 150,000 people in the past sign up for our Brain-a-thons, and 5 million people have seen them in the past.
It's wonderful. It really is, guys. You cannot miss it. I will be there 12 Eastern time, and it is free to sign up. It's such a gift to get this education. You don't want to miss it. John, the work you do is just such a gift to our world. And I'm so humbled to have you here on this show and to get to really know you personally. And I'll tell you, without this knowledge, without this work, without this study, I don't know where I'd be. You don't have to be stuck in as a child of your circumstance as an adult. You can overcome anything. Get into NeuroGym. John has amazing programs there on every element of life. Where can they get your information, John, for NeuroGym?
Yeah, so myneurogym.com. There's a company that has neurogym.com. They're more in rehab for seniors. Our company is myneurogym.com. You can follow me on Instagram, on my Facebook fan page, on Twitter. I'm all over social media as well.
Okay.
But myneurogym.com is a really good place to start. Lots of
Perfect.
great blogs and articles and things that they can get started with. And then sign up for the Brain-a-thon. And there should be a link on your page.
Yes, there'll be a link on all the show notes everywhere this will be posted. The podcast will be out there all over the place because there's always valuable information every time I meet you. So again, thank you for everything and who you are and your blessing to us in our world. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And with that, everyone, ends the lesson. Okay, love angels and transformers, that's all we have time for today. Again, I want to thank my amazing mentor, John Assaraf, from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to talk with you all today and share his amazing insight. Make sure you attend Brain-a-thon Saturday, November 14th, 12 Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific. You don't want to miss this information. It's extremely valuable. I appreciate you sharing the love by sharing the show link and, of course, our mission in helping to change the way the world loves and the way the world thinks, right? Please take a moment to subscribe to the show, give us a 5-star rating, and put a comment about what you liked about John's and my show today. Of course, during the week, if you're struggling, do reach out to me at rianamilne.com and just sign up for the Life and Love Transformation Discovery Session, and I'll be glad to meet with you for an hour to go into your deepest concerns. While you're there, make sure you get the free ebook on how to have the love you deserve, as well as take the 4 free love tests and get book chapter downloads of my #1 bestseller, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve, and its sister book, Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success, which is all about the mindset for success. Because as always, I am here to help you create that life you desire and to have the love that you deserve. Have a very beautiful, blessed, safe, and fabulous day. We'll see you soon.